Glasgow and Munster, folks. Glasgow's winning run goes on, 31 points to 22. Seemed like this was very much dead and buried at halftime as Glasgow were 28-5 up, but they just scored the one three-pointer in the second half. They did take a penalty, unusual for them. Munster had a wee bit of a comeback, but it was all a bit too little too late, and goal kicking in the wind proved a bit more difficult for the Munster lads. Hey, it is that time, pre-Six Nations, the squads are depleted, it's always going to be a bit changed, but man, Glasgow, despite a bunch of guys out with Scotland, still looked very good. And Munster will have a few things, like the scrum was under the pump. Jaeger went off early injured, which brought Alatoa on. He was getting hammered at scrum time, and like a few too many missed tackles. But hey, as I said, they had at least a bit of a comeback to get themselves a 4-try bonus point. We'll go through some of the key events and stats. You guys can let us know your thoughts. Munster had all the early pressure. They probably should have scored, but for Gleeson getting pinged for a double movement. And then Glasgow basically made it a 14-pointer because Munster went from almost scoring 7 to conceding 7 down the other end, coast to coast from Glasgow. They can do that to you, man. Like line break, right wing, shift it left, and then Ollie Smith goes over in the corner. It looks like Kilgallen's got him over into touch, but he's just able to ground the ball before his feet go into touch. So hell of a try from Glasgow. 7 points on the board from them. And then they make it a quick fire double when Lancaster gets the intercept to make it 14 points to 0 Glasgow. So they've gone from defending for the first 5 minutes to 2 tries to the good at home. Crowd are certainly getting behind them, but Munster got intercept of their own. Ethan Coughlin got one off a slightly too casual McDowell pass as Glasgow are playing in their own end. Missed conversion, but it's 14-5. We're only just 10 minutes into the game. It's been an absolute cracking opening kind of stanza. Ollie Jaeger, like I said, goes off injured, which is really unfortunate. I think he'd only just come back. And then it brings Alatoa on. I have been a supporter of Alatoa in the past, but man, his scrummaging ain't what it used to be, or the level has changed since I used to watch him over here in Super Rugby or whatever. But yeah, he got pinged a fair few times. Glasgow's scrum was certainly able to get on top of him. Ideally, you wouldn't want him playing, 65 minutes like he ended up having to play in this game. There were some penalties both ways, like Glasgow on the kick chase, really swarming the breakdown as the Munster guys would take the catch. Munster defending on their own line, winning penalties of their own. So kind of momentum shifts both ways. We had a bit of handbags. There's a bit of feeling in the game. One of the worst touch finders you will ever see from Butler. Like Simon Zebo did his best to say that was the wind, because Zebo loves his boys in red, but goodness me, that was a bit of a shocking strike for touch. Although there was a worse one contextually for Munster later, which is why like at least this one found touch, which we'll get to one which doesn't find touch a little bit later. It did take some time, 32 minutes in, but Glasgow do get their third. This one is a combination of Glasgow's skill set. They had a really nice, slick attacking lineup move, which went close to scoring. They had close range phases, close to scoring. The backs went close. Like Munster were defending for days, but eventually Ogunte Beju did manage to go over the ruck, the big man, to finally finish it off. It took some doing, but they got it done. So you got to give credit to both sides in that situation. Munster for holding them out as long as they did, because a lot of other sides, I think, would have conceded earlier. But ultimately, Glasgow still did get the score, so credit to them too. 21-5. And then Abrahams gets a yellow card for, I guess, a deliberate knock-on. He kind of went for it two-handed. But Munster had been conceding a few penalties, so I guess a yellow card was coming at some point. And then Glasgow immediately punished 14 men. Munster, so get the bonus point before half-time. They went close to the Munster line, and then Josh Mackay, geez, he had a good game. He was everywhere, very hungry for the ball. They like getting him in the action. He gets one for the Glasgow backline as they go 28 points to 5 up at halftime. That is looking absolutely dead and buried. Possession is much with Glasgow, or the territory's pretty even. There is a bit of wind in this game. Glasgow had it their backs in the first. Line breaks 5-3 to Glasgow. Munster have had to make 104 tackles to Glasgow's 67 at halftime. So it feels like, unless the wind can really do a job for Munster, she's probably game over. And then Glasgow looked to have shown that it was not just the wind at their backs that was getting them ahead, because they scored what would have been a worldie for this young hooker, who I don't even know if I've seen play before. Have I? Seb Stephen? What is he, like 20 years old or something? I don't know, but he was on a barnstorming wingers try for a academy front rower. Oh my goodness, that would have been a hell of a story at the pub to tell, but it gets chalked off for a knock-on in the build-up, which is unfortunate for him because it would have been a hell of a try. And it would have been a second-half try for Glasgow, which is something they don't end up getting. Then we get Munster with an equally impressive try. Dan Kelly, it takes 51 minutes, but it's just... Like, Glasgow won't be happy with this one, but Dan Kelly, what an individual bit of brilliance. It's just scrum in their own half, Munster. First phase ball goes to Dan Kelly, who just runs straight through the Glasgow line, puts a big fend in on Ollie Smith and has the gas to go over in the corner. It's unconverted, but it's an outstanding try. 28 points to 10. The Wilson and Zebo Bants in the commentary box are starting to get a little bit more Zebo's way with that little bit of a comeback. And then Gleeson, he gets one, helps close the gap for Munster, help chase down that 4-try bonus point. It's just a messy Glasgow lineup, which gets punished. It just bobbles away and Gleeson pounces over for a try. Won't score many easy that, but also unconverted. So we're at 28-15. It's like 4 tries to 3, but the conversions are keeping the big gap between the sides. And then absolutely game on 66 minutes when Munster get another one. This one's a pretty sweet one. It's Maul, wide passes, a couple of passes out the back, really good to put some depth. And then they put the width on when it's Abrahams to Kilgallen. It is try time. They do get the conversion this time, 28-22. That's absolutely game on. And then Munster get another penalty, which is, I mentioned there was an awful kick for touch earlier, but at least it found touch. Munster's kick for touch from the next penalty they get goes dead. And then from the scrum, they concede a free kick. And then from the free kick, they have to go on defence. And from defence, they concede a penalty, which Glasgow uncharacteristically slot to take it beyond a score, to take away the losing bonus point. And that's kind of a momentum killer, you feel like, for Munster. So the finish of the game, it's Glasgow just trying to chase down an extra try. They don't end up getting it. Like, they cop another yellow card to Munster, but scrum was under the pump. But there's no more scoring for that one. So for Munster, I mean, you get the 4-try bonus point. That's something. For Glasgow, you had your bonus point secured by half-time. You denied Munster a losing bonus point, but 3 points in the second half, I feel like they won't be too happy with. The shaky line-out conceding a try, straight-up missed tackle on Dan Kelly, that kind of stuff they won't be happy with. Munster will, again, have some bright side stuff in how they made Glasgow work for some of them, but like the intercept one is not going to look good on review because it was pretty obvious. But hey, it's easy for me to say that from my couch here in NZ. Final stats, the territories with Glasgow, 58%. The possessions, Glasgow, 61%. Munster won some turnovers, 6-4, but they copped some penalties, 13-10. 3 of those are Ala Alatoa, I think largely at scrum time. Line breaks, 9-7 to Glasgow as well. So Glasgow have got all the key stats in the key areas. Mackay, man, 18 carries. He's their top carrier. They love getting him the ball. 145 metres, 8 defenders beaten. It's cracking stuff from Glasgow. Kelly had 74 and 3 defenders beaten for Munster, but they missed a few tackles, man. Coughlin missed 4. Coughlin missed 5. Kelly missed 4. Abrahams missed 4. That's the stuff you can't be doing against the side. Like, even without their internationals, like, Glasgow are a top side, man. You can't be doing that. O'Donoghue won a couple of turnovers. Gleeson made 24 tackles as well as being the top carrier for Munster. McDowell had 17. They love getting the backs in the action. Smith, 94 metres. But yeah, really interesting game. Some interesting tries. Some proper worldies and some ones that the coaches won't look back on too fondly. But it was certainly all action as we count down to the Six Nations. You guys let us know your thoughts on the game. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Good to have you here. And I'll talk to you guys again soon. See you later.